Welcome back, everybody, to ADHD and Free, the podcast brought to you by the Awareness Space Network, a podcast and social media platform that explores how ADHDers can live their truth and feel free in their lives. We hear from inspiring coaches, therapists, experts, and fellow ADHDers from all over the world who sit down with me, Owen Morgan, to share their wisdom with us. I'm a well-being coach and a passionate neurodivergent human who received his ADHD diagnosis at 41. That day, the truth transformed my life, and I was finally free of the burden of not knowing just why I struggled so much, especially to fit into traditional societal expectations. I'm sure you can all hear me on that, ADHDers. My mission is to explore how the human spirit and understanding our whole self can bring us a life full of possibilities. Beautiful. Right, on today's show, we have an absolute legendary ADHDer, Jack Ellis. Welcome to ADHD and Free, Jack. Thank you so much for being with us today. And how are you feeling on this moment of being a guest on the show? Are you familiar?
Thank you very much for the kind intro. How am I feeling? I'm hungover today. That's the reality. I had a reunion with some old workmates last night, and yeah, my tolerance to alcohol is getting less and less. But it was a fantastic night, and actually, despite all the bad things said about alcohol, occasional let your hair down moments leave me not feeling too bad the next day, and actually more like I've had some good connection. So it was like, yeah, it wasn't really about the focus on the drinking, it's about the connection and the catching up. But I'm still a bit worse for wear this morning.
Oh, well, I appreciate you even more for being here. I think, yeah, when we're younger, we go out just to get smashed, you know, we just want to have an amazing night. But I think as you get older, you're going to actually have a beautiful time with people with the help of the funness that alcohol brings, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely an enhancer. It's just the next day. I mean, there was a trail of a criminal trail around the house of food I tried to attack when I got in, and jeans up the stairs. It's a laughable moment.
Oh, I'm getting flashbacks of all those massive stir fries, you know, big breakfasts I was trying to make, the sausage bacon. My dad was like, what the hell? Just hands everywhere. But no. Oh man, those were the days. I feel like I'm getting too old for all that sort of thing. Never. All right, great stuff. So you're on the Me, Myself, and ADHD show. So we're going to find out more about your story, your journey towards diagnosis, and most importantly, how you've kind of made it all work now, how you're thriving in your life. You know, it's as much about hope as it is about the hard truth of what ADHD can bring us in our lives. So if as much as you're comfortable, obviously we have some questions as we go through, but what is life for you like now? What are you up to with the ADHD in mind? How are you out there in the world? How are you doing your bit for our community? And why do you care about it?
So I was diagnosed at 36, so a bit like you later on in life. I'm 41 now, and so only 5 years in. And so why I talk about it all is because, you know, I think like a lot of people who listen to my stories and we have very similar stories, I guess. It's just that I was tired of a world which didn't accept, you know, brains like mine, you know, the different ways of thinking. You talk about societal pressures and expectations as well. Like, I think just tired of being molded into that mold I don't fit in, right? And it became exhausting mentally and physically, because I would either, you know, when I was younger, I'd be like in and out of different addictions or dopamine chasing activity, right? And so why I talk about it is because I'm just so desperate to see a world where it's normalized. Why you know, like medication, you know, if you choose to take medication, is just as normal as asking for a paracetamol. I mean, I'll often be walking around the office with my shaky pot of Elvance, you know, not deliberately trying to seek attention, but if, let's say I took it out because I'm taking a pill on the way to lunch, I won't just put it away and hide it. And, you know, I'll take my, like anyone taking Benadryl or whatever it is, you know. So I try and break down stigma and taboo wherever possible. And the amount of conversations that come from that are really rewarding anyway, on a one-to-one level and on a larger platform like LinkedIn. I've, you know, and Instagram, where I have quite a few followers on there. I work in advertising. I fell into advertising by mistake years and years and years ago when I was like 19. I left school with absolutely nothing, so I had no prospects on paper like that, but I've always been good at sales and, you know, using my personality to, you know, like drive home business and things like that. So that goes way back with me, but I've made a really good career out of it now. I have, I'm married to Liz. We've been together since about 2001. We got married in 2007, so we were like real, basically I call it childhood sweethearts, even though we were like 18. But yeah, we have three girls, 13, 10 and 9. Had to think about that. A dog and a cat. Life's very busy, right? So we've a lot going on career wise, plus of course side hustle in NeuroCandy.com, which is our fidget toy business and shop, and also where I host content around ADHD. So there's a lot going on, but I love the one-on-one conversations as much as I do the bigger platforms. It's just that it's so rewarding for me.
Yeah, thanks so much. And yeah, I know all about having lots of things going on. That's just how we roll, right? But what I'm really, I find so fascinating, and I'm sure the advertising helped with that. But what you've done with NeuroCandy.com, just before we jump into your story, what I really like about it is that we all know there's a bit of stigma, I guess, from neurotypicals about fidget toys and fiddle toys and things like that. But what your site really does is just normalizes it, but also actually makes it fun as well. Just having really unique creations. Like I said, the Thor hammer is something I'm interested for Christmas. So I just think what you've done there is really, really clever and allows our community to feel like we can have fun and be normal and not be stigmatized all at the same time. So is that a big driver for you, the fidget toy side of things? It's not just, let's sell toys, make some money, boom, 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 I'm ADHD, it all makes sense. It sounds like there's a lot more in your heart towards that than that.
There is, not to put too fine a point on it. I mean, first of all, what you just shared is exactly what we're trying to achieve. So it's very encouraging to hear that. We are trying to normalize it. It is a business, like not making any two ways of that. We want to make money from it. It's a shop. It's something that, I see my future in maybe one day as part of the portfolio. But at the same time, I never force it as a solution or, we want to normalize it. And it's great. It's a really exciting thing I do in my spare time outside of my day job, right? So just like, now I have a legitimate reason to go looking for really good deals of manufacturers that supply that stuff to us, and get to try out new fidget toys. And my kids love it. I mean, one of my kids is diagnosed autistic ADHD, right? So it's like that they get to try this stuff at home. And like we were saying earlier before we were recording, fidget toys are for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're diagnosed neurodivergent, it's, any age. I want to see fidget toys normalized in the office, the boardroom, the classroom, obviously quiet and sensitive to other people's needs as well. That's why we have a section on there called Quiet Fidget Toys, by the way, for story time. And so whenever I read to my kids, which I did for many years, we've stopped now because they're a bit older, but we used to have a box of quiet fidgets so they could understanding that whole, don't worry about sitting still and don't worry about keeping your hands busy. And, because sitting still and staring at someone when they're listening is quite intense for some people and quite threatening and all that, right? So, and anxiety inducing. So yeah, I think fidget toys are for everyone. So here's a nice little reflection of the advocacy I do as a side business.
Yeah, it's amazing. I encourage everybody. It's in the show notes, guys. Go and check it out. It's some really, really cool stuff on there. Especially even so if you've got children. So I'm thinking about that for my stepson. Some cool stocking fillers. I mean, it's awesome.
For all ages, though. I mean, we get so many.
Yeah.
Big kids, and honestly, trying out new fidget toys is such a joy. It's so much fun. Oh, how do we do that? Because you can't get it wrong either. It's not, sometimes we're doing a show this weekend, we're doing a fair, like a Christmas fair. And people come up and they're, oh, how do I do it? It's like, I don't want to tell you. I want to put it in your hand and see what you do with it. Because that's the point of a fidget or a stim toy. It's not to get right. It's not a puzzle. There's no end result. It's to help. Did it help you concentrate? And sometimes I'll put it in someone's hand and then ask them a question like, oh, where did you come from today? And then while they're talking to me, they're fidgeting, and I went, there you go. That's how it works. And then sometimes you put something in their hands and they're walking around. They cannot stop. So it's all about regulation, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. I use beads a lot at the moment. Just the bead you have around your neck. Some people might pass them through their hands. Some people might play with the actual beads themselves, and it just depends, and I think, I just think it's so important to be okay with it as well. Like if I'm on a show, I can fiddle, if you see it or not, doesn't make a difference. But I just think anything we can do to help regulate ourselves, because part of the big battle is
Yeah, and if you're worried about it looking too colourful or childish, then pick one of our executive collection stuff, you know, where like the Thor hammer is definitely not just for kids. That is a super popular one for all ages. It's very, very cool. You know, it's got that engraving on it, it spins in your hand. So anyway, not enough product plugs going on here.
No. I'll be getting the Thor one for me, so don't worry. I'm a massive Marvel fan, so if you've got any Marvel merchandise, I will be there. So I'm good to go. Cool, thanks, man. Yes, go and check it out, guys. It's really, really awesome. It's amazing. Okay, so what I really want to know is what was, in the lead up to your assessment and going for the diagnosis, can you tell me what was like the breaking point? What made you think, oh, I think there's something going on here, and then making you want to say research and book an assessment, no matter how you did it? I really want to know where you were and what happened that made you think, oh, that's really powerful.
All of my life I've been anxious. I've had that confirmed to me by teachers and doctors and people who were grown up in my childhood around me. And I just remember times of just feeling, like I had no explanation why I was always on edge. And I grew up in a single parent household with my mum, one of my sisters and one of my brothers, basically my full sister and brother, because my dad has 6 kids from 3 different marriages. We were actually all quite close, but so I didn't grow up with dad. We saw him occasionally, went on holidays, things like that. I think it's fair to say my mum had her own struggles with alcohol and things like that. And I mean, I believe she's autistic or ADHD anyway. There's a strong hereditary link in families clearly anyway. And now once you know, right? It takes one to know one. So looking back, that was very difficult as a child, because I think my older brother and sister are a bit older than me, 5 and 7 years older. So I felt like a bit of an only child at times of, when you get bullied at school and for being different, and you're very sensitive to that as well, because we have rejection sensitivity dysphoria, don't we? Well, a lot of us do. That was a very confusing time for me. And then dad popping in and out occasionally, whisking us off to nice places and then dropping us back into reality. And, it was just a very strange upbringing. And I always felt I was a nuisance, always felt I was in the way. I always had it repeated to me by many people in my life that I was just a pain in the arse, basically. A pain in the arse. So, so that was upsetting to deal with. And then when I became a teenager, my dad, who was completely self-made, he came from a very working class background in Southend-on-Sea, and he decided, he's got very good business acumen, and he made a lot of money with importing onions and vegetables and things like that, random business. But the point is, he decided with me he was going to put me in a private school. So one of his 6 kids was going to get this kind of experience. And because I was showing signs of being bright, but obviously had a lot of behavioral issues. So I went off to this full-time boarding school and at 11, straight away from primary school. And it was an amazing experience, and I'm so lucky to have had it. But what happened was, after just like 2 years, he made a very simple financial decision, I guess, in his head, because there was some problems his end, and that's his story. I don't need to go into that. But the point is, I had to come home, and I wasn't even given time. Bear in mind, I lived there, and I went from a chaotic household where older brother and sister's friends were around, and there was lots of drugs and lots of madness going on, and chaos. My mum was missing half the time, or drunk, or just random partners in and out. It was very confusing, and as a little boy, that was very weird. So going off to boarding school was like a relief for me, because I was in an environment where I was told to go to bed at what time, all that stuff that you don't realize is good when you're younger, the discipline, the routine, the structure that gives you safety. And so I loved it. So it was more than just going off to a nice school and having this experience. And I did well at piano, I did well in Latin. I'm quite brainy, but I never knew that until recently. So we'll come on to that. Right. I don't mean quite brainy in an arrogant way. I mean, when you're told you're thick all your life, or you're slow, or you're stupid, that you have to sort of just learn to love yourself and reverse some of that, don't you? So anyway, I came back from school for a random weekend and was told I was never going back. So I never got to see all those friends I made between the ages of 11 and sort of 13, in those formative years, and never saw them again. And it just nearly broke me completely, actually. I was put in other state schools after that, and then just gave up. I thought, fuck that, I'm never going to school again. So then the wheels came off, right? So I basically got into a group of friends, and we just experimented with drugs, smoking weed, pills, cocaine, anything really. All the way up to I was sort of 18. That my whole childhood was just my teenage life was a mess, and I was beaten up a few times, bullied a lot, very confused, very lonely existence. Didn't really want to be alive at times, if I'm honest. And then when I was like 18, one Christmas, I'd had so much cocaine and ecstasy and alcohol the night before that my nan found me kind of half, like sort of not an overdose, but like I was completely in a stupor. Like I was out cold on my bedroom floor, still fully dressed. My nan's like was quite religious at the time, so she whisked me off to my aunt and uncles who are also Christians, and I kind of used that as a tool to leave that world and basically save my life a little bit. I'm not actually religious or someone who's I'm kind of happily agnostic these days, but that would just happen to be the vehicle, the intervention, if you like. And that's where I met my wife as well. So she's still a churchgoer, and we're not that practicing really, to be honest. And I'm not at all. But the point is that if I didn't have that intervention at that point, it could have ended up either in prison or in the grave. I think that's where I was headed. I had no care about my own existence. I didn't think anyone cared about me, and I had very, very low self-esteem. So from then I met a lot of positive friends, and of course Liz, and Liz is the total opposite to me. Comes from a very routine, structured background. Her parents are lovely. Her whole family are very decent people. It's it's very predictable, routine oriented, safe. So I spent loads more time with her and her family, and total opposites, right? And I think opposites attract, as we know now. But I think it's difficult for her dad maybe at the start, but we love each other loads now. Like there's never been an issue there, and because I'm actually quite a decent person, and all that stuff had to be unraveled. All those lies was told to me, and I told myself had to be undone. And I gave myself some good distance between the madness I had, and then we had kids, and that was like a redemption point as well. I mean, I remember having my daughter Tegan, my first daughter, and I remember holding her one night, and she had a really difficult first 7 months of life, and she was just really, the birth was horrendous, it was like really difficult, but she just screaming every night, and we were really sleep deprived, and it was really tough, like really tough. But I remember holding her one night, and she was quiet, and I remember just saying to her and whispering, like, you'll never be a nuisance to me. You'll never be where you can scream in my face and I might get angry and upset and tired or whatever, but you'll never be able to not have all of my love and all of my devotion, and that's just the deal. And the deal is that, and it's set in stone. And my kids, I'm so lucky to be a dad. I'm so privileged to be a dad. It's like one of the most redeeming things ever that they're in my care. And raising children is one of the most rewarding experiences for me. And being a present dad, invested in their lives, it's an amazing turning point yet again. So meeting Liz was one of the biggest, and then having kids just took that to another level. So yeah, I'm waffling a bit, so feel free to direct me.
No, it's just so powerful. I want to thank you firstly so much for sharing that story. Now, I've been interviewing a lot of people on trauma for years, so I've heard a lot of stuff, and I just want to send my whatever you want, my love, whatever it is, for your inner child, to be honest, because that is rough. And chuck an ADHD brain into that situation, think about how hard it is to regulate our emotions, to how intense we feel things. Stick you in an environment like that where you don't feel safe. Let's magnify your emotions tenfold. No wonder you'd be turning to stimulants and things like that. So I just wanted to honor the trauma you've essentially gone through, and then to honor how amazing it is that you're sat here today.
Yeah.
So all you did at the beginning of the show, I just think it's super inspiring, and it shows that there is hope after trauma, and also hope with neurodivergent brains. I think the
Yeah,
combination
that's
of the
right.
two,
Yeah.
yeah, the
It's a good.
combination of the two is really, like you say, you could have ended up dead, but so much of the prison population,
Yeah.
they're now saying it's neurodivergent because no one bloody saw it. And like your mum, it's heartbreaking. No one saw it, no one told her. And then she just struggles through because she didn't have the truth. And that's the point. You got your truth, and now look at you. It's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, and I really appreciate you saying that, because it's like I've spoke to Caroline Turner at Crease Puddle. She works a lot with the police, and she was telling me about the amount of neurodivergent people in prison and how it's just undiagnosed, and yeah, it's scary. And my dad as well, who, bear in mind, was he doesn't understand, he did not understand any of this stuff. So what I share now is not coming from a place of hatred or resentment, but he found me very difficult, right? He didn't have me at his third wedding, right? He didn't understand why I had a problem with leaving school. You know, he just found me very, very, he constantly reiterated the point that I was a nuisance, right? And a problem. And then only this year, I got down to the final few people that were being considered for Chris Packham's next series of Inside Autism, you know, his series that he did around
Yeah.
that. And unfortunately, they went with someone else in the end. But I've got really close with the team that produced it, because they were going to have me and my dad on there talking about, you know, what it's actually like, and the things he was going to be really honest and humble about, the things he missed in me around ADHD specifically. Sorry. And he was going to basically talk about his regrets that he has around the way he was with me, and I think that was quite brave of him. We didn't get the opportunity in the end, but could be a content podcast for another day, mate. I think it's great when I'm not really about trying to change the perception of that generation, if I'm being brutally honest. I think it's a bit like, you know, I don't know, just like some grandma saying something really off key about a certain member of society, and it's like, you could try and change them, but I'm always about, like, let's focus our energy on the people now in power and those coming up. Let's change that for society for tomorrow, right? It's really important. But I still think it's amazing that my dad, who's nearly 80, was willing to say, actually, I missed loads of this, and I'm glad to be educated on it, and I'm humble that you've got the grace to talk to me about it. So you're all right. And when I get a chance to tell my story, I do it does bring up a lot of new feelings, because I'll be honest with you, when you invite me to talk on the podcast, it's like, oh, it's another podcast, it's what I do. But we are talking about my actual life here, and it's pretty powerful stuff, I think. And I'm very lucky to be in the position I am, to have a loving wife and a best friend to me, who has put up with my stuff throughout the years. And, you know, and we talk about that, though. There's another thing so one thing that always gets asked to me and Liz is, like, how does she cope? And we actually own that she doesn't cope. She loves me, and we love each other, and you know, that's our relationship. And actually, it doesn't mean that I don't have to cope with stuff. So we address that stigma and balance now, and we're thinking about doing a book on it as well. But yeah, like, hopefully it does give hope to people out there.
Yeah, thank you. That's such a powerful point about the coping. Oh, it must be hard to cope with your ND partner. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. You know, we're all humans with a range of traits, ND or otherwise. So there's coping on both sides. Relationships are hard. You have to work together, and they can be beautiful. And sometimes you have to pull together as a unit. And I think my partner's ADHD as well. So it's quite interesting to have two ADHDs in one space, but the way it kind of works as well. But going back to what you were saying about your dad and stuff, and parents generally, is me and my partner think of that as we're the lost generation. So the people that brought us up didn't know. They didn't know about neurodivergent. How can they know if they're not told anything about it? So we're the lost generation, the ones that we now get a chance, but we were lost at the beginning. We're all finding ourselves now. You, me, my partner, everybody we've had on the show, which is exciting. But more importantly, the next generation, so you and your girls and me and my stepson, what an opportunity this is. I can look at my stepson, whose mum's ADHD quite intensely, and I can see it. It's like my brain in an 8.5-year-old boy's body. I can see it. Everything he's doing. It's like, I do that. But hopefully by 9, might get his diagnosis, and he's off to the races. We can give him the tools he needs. We can get the support he needs. I'm so excited for his life. It's so amazing that he's going to get seen this early, where you and me weren't. And what an opportunity you and me have to help these children go off into the world, spread the message, tell their kids, and hopefully ripple effect, 20, 30 years time, this will be as normal as the mental health conversations that we have.
Exactly. Yeah, I think workplaces will look different. I think work routines will look different. I think the whole picture, the interviewing process, commuting, how you earn a living will change because we're normalizing this. If crudely 1 in 5 people are ND, then it's got to change anyway. Yeah, I also remember a question you asked me, which I haven't answered, about my diagnosis and what happened. And I think this was a series of in and out. So even though I was, I walked away from that chaos and was married and had all the circumstantial things that you might say is of an ordered life and back, I'm okay now, was where some of the bigger problems occurred because I was still undiagnosed and I was just told I was anxious. And then eventually I was given antidepressants, which spiked my serotonin, not my dopamine. And that caused me to just go blind drunk or start taking cocaine again. And the spiral of feeling ashamed and self-loathing continued whilst I was maintaining this life of, what people told me was I was very lucky to have and you should be grateful and all this. So I just started so I was heading for another crisis point. I was heading for another point of, collapsing again and, felt so much guilt and shame but didn't know why I wanted to escape and was being wild and while I was on this medication and I wasn't just anxious and depressed. That's not the whole story. And so 2019 was when this all came to a head and I had a series of panic attacks every day for a week, which nearly finished me off. I mean, it was like, wetting myself, physical shaking, absolutely in pieces. Didn't understand why. And I thought, something's got to give now. I really don't know what the situation is. And the NHS had started to reopen the books around ADHD again, now that it was being taken more seriously. It'd been kind of mooted when I was a kid, but not in any way looked into. And it's like anxiety medication's not working. What's wrong? Something else is going on here. And then went through all this diagnosis and, the NHS took months over it and not knocking it, but it just took forever. And then when I had this moment of just serious panic attacks and crisis, someone at work just happened to be a mental health first aider as well as an HR business partner. And they're like, I described them as like an angel at the right time to me on the ground, right? It was like, her name's Laura Andrews, by the way. Shout out Laura. Amazing. She went above and beyond and set a standard of mental health first aid, which I don't think we'll ever see again. I was quite good at my job as well, for context. I've always been quite good at my career. So it's not like they're a charity, nor should they be, right? They help you, duty of care, but it's signposting usually, isn't it? And she went above and beyond. She sat with me and cried at one point with me because she was so affected. She could see the shell of a person I was. I was pale. I was having panic attacks. I couldn't go to work. And I've never missed days for my mental health. I probably should have at times, but I didn't. And she was that invested in me. She went, whatever it takes, I'm going to get you in front of a psychiatrist. And I was like, but your insurance policy doesn't include that. She went, I don't give a shit. We're going to do it tomorrow. I'll do it. We'll pay for it. We'll get it sorted. So she got me in front of a psychiatrist the following week, and he looked at my records and my history and my medication, and he's like, you have got ADHD to the book. There's probably other things going on as well, but that's the most pronounced diagnosis. And since then I've been diagnosed with OCD, and they're looking at bipolar and almost certainly autistic as well. But that's, now it's kind of mixed up a bit, isn't it? And it's kind of all under the same thing. And there's traits of both, but ADHD, it's like, so first of all, you've got to get off the SSRI, classic antidepressants. That was a miserable withdrawal, problems again, something more for us to cope with at home. Then I was put on stimulant medication, and slowly and surely since then, I've just been on this road of recovery. And it's like real recovery, not through religion, which was something that filled a gap for a bit and got me off a path of self-destruction, not through drugs and drink and abusing myself, not through dangerous thrill-seeking behavior, because I was in trouble with the law when I was a kid. I was a naughty kid, right? Because I just gave up. No one cared about me. I didn't care about anyone else. And I start to love myself for the first time. And I mean that not in a weird way, just respect myself and start taking myself a bit more seriously, less gaslighting, start finding that inner confidence that I feel a baby in it, actually. I'm only 5 years into this, so it still feels fresh.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's such a powerful story. Now, we've heard so many versions already in the first 5 episodes, and this is just another, example of being missed again, going back to not being seen, not being missed. And this anxiety thing's fascinating, isn't it? It seems to be one of the key things that I'm seeing coming up. And it's what I've had my whole life. I just never understood why it keeps coming up, and it's stopping me able to grow and do things I want to do. And then I just get shame, feel worthless, feel like a piece of shit because I can't take care of my family properly. So it's really interesting. And there's all these core I can never say it, core morbidities or comorbidities, which are then getting spotted. Fair enough, that's part of the presentation. So yeah, of course they're going to pick up on that. But it's the holisticness of this just always gets missed. It's like, but there has to be more to it. But that's for another day. We're not going to talk about the medical healthcare system. But so many of us have gone private. I went private because I just needed to know. People said, well, you could just wait, I guess. I said, no, we talked about this yesterday, Jack. I'd like to ask you as a tangent. I guess it seemed like it built up, and then you had that amazing time with that person that supported you through to assessment. But we're talking yesterday, me and another Jack actually, about that bit in between. I think I have it, but I've got to wait. I've got to wait for an assessment. The bit in the middle is just horrible, where you're like, I think my truth's coming, but I'm not sure. And you just get so lost for a bit. I got lost even in a couple of weeks I was waiting. I can't imagine waiting years on an NHS waiting list. Jesus.
I think because I was at crisis point, I don't remember. I remember just going along and having these assessments, right? But it was when I had the crisis point and was put in front of a psychiatrist that felt very quick, because I was basically saved again. It was another intervention point. And so, yeah, I totally understand the thing you're talking about, though. And a lot of people ask me about diagnosis, and it's unfortunately in the UK, not unfortunately, but this is the matter of fact situation. If you can afford it, go private. And not everyone can, but if you can, pay for it. I'm not saying that none of this is easy. It's just matter of fact. And if you can't, look at your workplace insurance, because that's now changing. Before, they used to disregard ADHD as a developmental disorder and they can't help you. And it's like, and maybe you just have to say, well, as a result of it, I think I'm suffering now. And that's the wording you use. And then get on the NHS are picking it up. I mean, they've got an awful lot to deal with since the pandemic, and we are very lucky to have the health system, despite what people think of it, right? So they're overloaded, and they're great people, right? And the people that actually do the day-to-day job of the NHS are heroes, right? And they're absolute legends. But they're like all of us, learning about ND and how we get diagnosis quicker. It's the politicians, really, and I mean, it's about that change, I think, and people running it. And then after that, it's like, because without a psychiatrist or a proper psychologist diagnosis, you can't get hold of the medication, which, if you choose to take medication, and I'm yet to meet a psychiatrist or clinical psychologist who hasn't tried to treat ADHD with stimulant medication. Obviously, if you've got heart problems or that sort of stuff, every case is different, or it can give you other symptoms that aren't favorable. But in most cases, it sounds like they treat ADHD with stimulant medications, because we can't, the thinking behind that is we can't produce as much dopamine as the average person. And dopamine depletion looks like thrill-seeking behavior, looking for arguments where they don't need it, taking drugs, impulse, looking for a hit, regulating, picking your skin, and the list goes on. So it's not about, it's like finding your normal and your balance. It's like why people with ADHD quite often take cocaine to calm down, because they're not going to bother waiting for months and years for an appointment and then go through the expensive, what's the word when you go up and down, trying out different medications. It begins with T, and I forgot. Not triage, that's something else. But yeah, like titration. And they don't wait for that. They're like, well, I'll just go and buy cocaine from a dealer because it's now and I know it helps me. And so I almost want to say to the guys in charge of this country, like, what do you rather have? Prisons full of people who are undiagnosed ND, or have loads of other problems, not necessarily in prison, but just constantly trying to understand? Or are you going to make it more accessible for people if they so choose to be medicated, like a diabetic with insulin? It's something they need to feel normal and grounded. I wouldn't be having this conversation so well with you now if I wasn't medicated. And I take Elvance as a slow release amphetamine based stimulant drug. I take 40 milligrams a day, 20 in the morning and 20 at lunch. And it's a game changer. It helps me. There are other symptoms, nothing's quick fix, but it stopped me, being addicted to things. I haven't even had to try and not take drugs or overeat. Trust me, I still indulge. Like last night, I had a few beers, quite nice. I think people get scared the character's going to change. Definitely not. If anything, you might find things quieter and more relaxing. I get muscle tension as a result of it. It's a bit of a shitty side effect, but the pros outweigh the cons for me, and that's my story, right? This is not a an endorsement for it, but it's a let's change the conversation around medication, because it has a lot of stigma attached to it and fear.
Yeah, thank you. But I think a big part of it, though, is it's literally creating a better life for you. It's not like it's not toxic in any way, and it's actually creating a better life. It means you're going to be better for the people around you. So, I mean, you can't argue with the power of the life that is providing you and your loved ones. So, I mean, whatever we think about it, that's all that matters at the end of the day, is that we become, I guess, a better part of society, they'll probably say, because we are behaving the way they want.
Yeah, and that is that argument, isn't there, about isn't medication just a tool from neurotypicals to keep us in line? And I've heard a few cynical stories like that before, and I've had those thoughts. I have. The reality is our world isn't going to change overnight. So in order for me to earn the money I am and turn up and fulfill the expectations of my boss, my bosses, and to a certain extent society, it just helps. But if you wind back the clock to when we were prehistoric, right, or you know, okay, we're not that old as a species, are we? But like, you know, I think your anxiety, right, and your hypervigilance would have been really useful to avoid being chased down by predators and like various dangers. And there's probably a reason why you're always on edge, but you know, evolutionary and biologically speaking, isn't there? And it doesn't work in this society, which is most of the time quite gentle and, you know, orderly, and we just build up all these buildings and say that's society, off you go. But I wonder if that hypervigilance would have been used better many, many, many moons ago.
Yeah, that's a whole amazing, fascinating topic that's come with us in the years, especially with those with trauma and stuff. You know, the way we react to traumatic experiences is actually completely normal based on that lineage from our ancestors. It's completely normal to respond that way. It's very interesting. So you, like you said, so you had that moment. You got a diagnosis. Obviously, they got you off the medication for anxiety, and obviously that was a bit rough. Then you're moving into starting to rebuild your life with the stimulants. So in this moment, then, as of today, as we get towards the end of the episode, so the medication is really helping you. Take it twice a day. So give me a sense of how dominant is ADHD in your life, even with the medication? You still having to work on daily practices, and haven't you just lost the self-awareness and self-compassion for yourself? You having to put a lot of work in, or do you find the medication helps some of that work not have to be so intense?
It definitely helps. It definitely helps. And it's reassured me that it's not all gonna, because I think one of the overwhelming things is like, okay, I've been diagnosed, now what? I've got to do loads of work. And especially when you're diagnosed late, you've got this kind of lens looking back at your life, haven't you, of shit, that explains a lot, you know, and things like that. And so it's quite, but I just want to reassure anyone out there that it's I get a lot of people messaging me about medication, particularly, and saying like, oh God, is it terrifying? Is it different? It's like, no, actually quite often it's the opposite. But you've got to try it for yourself and do it carefully with your psychiatrist and your doctor. But my experience is it does help, and it quietens things down and helps me feel more orderly and in control. Other than that, I probably do work on myself, but I don't actively wake up and go, what I need to do is X, Y, and Z. I've never been good or interested in that, if I'm honest. And the whole shifting change of mentality for me is things like, I felt like a failure and didn't meet the mark because I was holding myself up to different expectations. So let's take reading a book, for example. So I don't read books like most people read books. First of all, if the topic doesn't interest me, I'm not even going to take it off the shelf, and I don't beat myself up about that anymore, right? So if it's about movies, I love that. I like non-fiction stuff. I like autobiographies. I like going high concept on specific topics. And I might read half the book and then put the other half down and not read the other half for 2 years. Or I've got 3 books by my bed right now that are half chewed. And I used to go, oh, why can't you just finish a book? Just sit there and read it, get through it, finish it. What the fuck's wrong with you? And it's like, forget that bollocks. That's an internal bully. And again, someone else's idea, because a book is written by someone and that's their idea and it's just what we do. I mean, wind back the clock ages and ages and ages ago, we wouldn't have had that. So that's just one person's way of, that's like telling a dyslexic that you're not clever because you can't read or you struggle with. It's like nonsense. Dyslexics are some of the most intelligent people in the world. So it's like, we have to change that expectation. And book just one example, I think. So we talked to, one of the things that's been told to me in the past by close ones, it's like, it's hard to judge your mood. And it's like, well, if we were all flatlining predictables, that's actually quite a grey and boring existence as well. So let's try and change the way we talk to people like me about, oh, you're quite up and down. Well, that's great because you add a bit of color where it's gray maybe, or you are a great energy driver, but we understand sometimes you haven't got that energy. So it's like, rather than go, well, you're a bit up and down, so I could do without you, I feel the same about you when you're being the same old every day, actually. So we just flip it, right? Not in a defensive way. I just start to change the conversation and things like that. And we're very open in my house as well about, like, I think I am very self-aware. I think I have that in my toolkit anyway. But we're very open in our house about mental health. So, for example, it's winter. The nights are drawing in earlier, and I get quite seasonally affected. And so, my kids and obviously Liz are aware that I can struggle with that. And now they're opening up the conversation about what they struggle with. My oldest has struggled with anxiety. She's always clicking her fingers and stressing about things. And the open conversation we have and the vulnerability I show, I think has created a very healthy conversation in our family. There's no stigma at all about mental health stuff. The hidden stuff basically all comes out. And that might be quite intense for people coming in. But we don't, I mean, there's very little that's secret in our house anyway. It's like, apart from maybe like what me and Liz get up to behind closed doors at night, that's our thing. But other than that, it's like, oh, I've just done a brilliant poo, Dad. Like whatever, that nothing's a secret. And for some people, that's a bit intense. But I think it's just, we just talk about stuff so openly. And, Chloe has a lot of tics and things and comes home from school and is like, bursts out into them because she's had to mask all day. Not had to, but she feels she has to. But we talk to the school and the diagnosis is helping. So, that's how I get through my days. Is I take every opportunity to talk to anyone who wants to talk about this stuff, whether it's my super senior boss at Yahoo or my manager who's great at listening to me and understanding it all and even ask me questions about it, to the delivery man or the taxi driver. It's like, if they want to go toe to toe for it, we talk about it. And I love it. That's the journey for me. It helps educate me as well as change the conversation.
Amazing. I love that. And I think if I came into that space in your house, because I love talk about all this and we're really open, me and my partner, I'd just be loving it. It's like, these people are so real and authentic. Finally, bloody hell. People I can actually connect with, which is great. So how do you feel about yourself today, mate? How are you as a person, as Jack? Do you like yourself? Or how compassionate are you? Are you proud of yourself? I want to know what your thought is there.
I'm slowly but surely starting to love myself. I think what I mean by that is like really stop that inner bully telling me I'm worthless and pointless and in the way and annoying and all those things and obtuse. And I'm starting to respect the things I do and think and the way I do. I'm much more compassionate because I can see it in other people, and that's made me more compassionate to other people as well. So I think that self-awareness journey has been, if not equally, but if not bigger than the medication help, because I think the self-awareness and the journey of discovery and the conversations I have, because I'm in the D&I space as well in the corporate world. So I speak to so many folks. I was at a judging awards day last week with folks in the room, and a lot of them were neurodivergent, and I talk to so many people all the time about this stuff, and I learn something new all the time. And the conversation becomes so normal that it's like, this is life now. So it's great. It's actually quite exciting. And I don't realize it until I stop and you ask me questions like that, that I go, actually, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, compassion is so important for all of us. It's so easy to be down on ourselves for various reasons and just think we're worthless and why can't I do that? It's pathetic. Why can I not do this? Why can I not do that? So hang on a second, like let's throw some love in the mix here. Like considering all the things that we have to experience as neurodivergent, beings. The fact that we're still doing what we're doing is so inspiring to us, just to ourselves, really. We should be really, really proud of ourselves that even though we do have it, what about all the things we have done? There's those things I haven't done or things that I've put aside or quit, but I always have a mission. I always want to have purpose and meaning in my life, which means I'm going to create ripples. I'm here today. What we're doing today is going to create a ripple. Someone's going to listen, find this useful, talk to a loved one. They go to their diagnosis. I mean, that's amazing. Just for having a chat. I mean, just be proud of the ripples we all create, don't we?
It's ripples. That's a lovely way to put it. And I wanted to just highlight one last thing. So I spoke to in many conversations I have. This week was a really poignant one with a girl I met at this Festival of Media Judging Day. Her name is Aisha Suleiman. She works for media brands, so IPG and agencies like that. She's head of DE&I. She's an amazing woman. I mean, she just said something, caught me completely off guard with this like kindness that she just, she listened to what I had to say, and we were just sharing ideas, and just getting some ideas out on the table to see what we could do next together. And when she heard basically what you just said about like me just sort of saying, I'm not sure what I've done with my career or NeuroCandy or speaking engagements, that sort of stuff. She listened to it all and she's like, I'm probably going to tell you something that not many people tell you. Often you hear we could be doing more, have a strategy or have a plan. She was like, you're doing enough. Maybe take your foot off the pedal a bit. You deserve to be here. And I wonder someone listening to this podcast today needs to hear that. It's like we often are terrible as ADHDers at knowing what we have done. And it's like, take a minute then to look at what you have done rather than stress about what you haven't done and what you need to do. Because we often have a trail of things. I mean, the cheesy thing is the to-do list rather than a to-do list, right? I don't really deal with that, what you want, but it's like, look what I've done and give yourself a pat on the back today. You deserve to be here. And it nearly choked me up hearing that. I'll be honest with you, it's such a beautiful thing. Aisha's a lovely person. I can't wait to talk to her more. She's got her own business as well, which I want to plug quickly as well, where she is helping businesses set up their own employee resource groups. And so, if you are a new business or you're someone exploring setting up employee resource groups, look out for Aisha Suleiman at Media Brands. She's her company's called the Inclusion Collective, I think, or Inclusion Company. But look her up. She is the brainchild behind it. She's superb.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's always just reminding people, like, no matter how big or small, when you look back at some of those little moments that you've provided to people, the world, or to yourself, we're not talking here, you all have to be out there, building massive brands, but there'll be something. Just look back, and even if it's like how you've just brought so much love and respect to a pet in your life, for example, like you've taken care of this animal and showered it with love and affection. I mean, that's enough. If you pass on, you've just left something really beautiful on a being, an animal.
Lovely.
I just really want people to know that. So, Jack, this has been absolutely amazing. I could literally talk to you all day. I think every single guest that's come on needs to come on at least 6 or 7 more times so we can cover more content. But before we go, this is your chance to this is your epic speech moment, mate. This is your chance to tell all us ADHDers out there, give ADHDers out there, diagnosed or otherwise, just give them some love. Tell them why they are worthy of being here. And what advice would you give anybody out there that's going through what we go through?
I mean, I covered it a lot, right? But I think the key point is know that you're not alone. If you're on the journey of discovery, you still don't know, you suspect you might have ADHD or autism or any of the ND traits. It's like, first of all, no, even though it sounds convoluted and stressful and doctors might, doubt, and you might have doors shut in your face and you just give up because we don't have a lot of patience sometimes, do we? And I went through a lot of, closed doors to get to the point where I am today. And there's always a door shut in your face and always someone who doesn't believe you and always someone who's cynical and always someone who doubts you out there, right? So just shrug that off and know that there's people like Owen and myself and many, many others that, understand you, get you, don't find you weird, don't find you a nuisance, don't find you unusual, and you deserve to be here. I could keep coming back to Aisha's words. It's so, whether you choose to go down the path of diagnosis or not, or just know that you're not alone.
Yeah, I love that. We always encourage people to just reach out, find your ADHDers out there on the social media, or there's plenty of groups now. It's amazing. There's lots of Instagram thread feeds now, where an ADHD or a coach will set up a little separate DM where you're part of a community. So if you're struggling with the non-NDers in your life, finding this all a bit difficult for themselves, then just find other NDers, because they'll get it. And I've learned that already in the last 2 months of being an NDer. So this has been a wonderful time. I've loved talking with you. I find you really inspiring. I think you're an example of what can be achieved with our wild and wonderful brains. So let us know where we can find all your stuff. So it's plug time again. We started with a plug. Now let's finish up with a plug.
Go to neurocandy.com if you like fidget toys. It is an extension of my advocacy. It's not the whole spiel of what I do. I mean, what I talk about is my public speaking around this and the story sharing. But if you like fidget toys, we've got a load of cool stuff. I hand select these things myself. I love them. Everything we use at home, there's things there that are like for sensory seekers that are spiky or soft or squeegee or squishy, spinners, magnets, haptic stuff. So there's something for everyone there. We love them. We find them exciting. Drop me a note if you got any comments as well. We always like the conversations we have. But most importantly, it's about, look me up on Instagram, jack.neurocandy on Instagram. I'm on TikTok as well. Can't remember what my handle is for that, but I come up. The big pink brain will come up. And just keep the comments coming, because it's all about the conversation and making this the new normal.
Yeah, certainly. I encourage people to go and check it out. The website's amazing. It's really well thought through, and there's plenty for everybody, which is amazing. So put all the links in the description, everybody. I want to thank you one more time, Jack, for being on the show today. It's been really lovely to meet people from all walks of life, all different stories. And it's, been an amazing journey. And I can't wait to maybe sit down and talk with you again. It would be amazing.
I'd love that. Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, a real pleasure meeting you as well.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We have many more episodes on the way, from our Thrive guys, which is our coaches and therapists, all the way through to people, real life people on the street with the ADHD who just want to use their story to inspire others. And do check out my other show within this network, Classic ADHD, everyone, which is with my partner, who's also ADHD. So it's a much shorter show, but me and my partner, Carla Jo, talk about the journey together, and her as a woman and me as a man. So lots to be had there. I want to thank you so much for all your support, all our new followers. Thank you, everyone on YouTube. We're starting to get loads of subscribers out of nowhere. I've only been going for 2 months, so it's really, really, expanding. So thank you, everyone. It's amazing. We will see you next time for another edition of ADHD and Free.